Hello, everyone, and welcome to Woo Stream, where we are bringing the Willamette community together. I'm Professor Karen McFarlane Holman at the Chemistry Department, and for today's conversation, I am joined by Dara Wright. She is a Willamette graduate. She graduated in 1997, and she is currently the EVP and the President of the Clinical Diagnostics Group at Bio-Rad Laboratories. She is an experienced biotechnology leader with a demonstrated track record of commercial success in both research and clinical settings. And so today, this is very timely. We're recording this in April of 2020. And so we're going to be talking with Dara about her role in the company the role that her company is playing in efforts to detect the immune response to SARS-CoV-2 and how her time at Willamette then helped prepare her for the role that she holds now.
Hi, Bearcats.
How are you?
I'm great. Hello. Hi, Bearcats.
Yay. It's really great to have you. And actually, you being a Willamette alum, I really wanted to start out first with talking about your time at Willamette, and then we definitely want to get to everything that you're doing now and everything Bio-Rad is doing now. But to start out with Willamette, I wanted the viewers to know a little bit about your background, where you came from, where you went to high school, and then how you chose Willamette.
Yeah, so I went to high school in Eureka, California, so a small town in Northern California. And people say, that the Bay Area is Northern California. They don't realize that there's a whole bunch north of that. So Eureka is just a couple hours from the Oregon border. And so, that's where I went to high school. I was always really interested in science, and so definitely pursued that path once I got to Willamette as well.
Excellent. So as soon as you started at Willamette, were you like, oh, I'm bio all the way, or did you sort of dabble in various sciences, or what'd you do?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of a liberal arts education, which I definitely give a lot of credit for my success today. To having that background. So the thing that Willamette does is you don't get to pigeonhole yourself right away. And, you have the opportunity to take a wide variety of classes. So from a science perspective, I was always really interested in biology, but I took a lot of chemistry classes and physics classes as well. And then I also have a Spanish degree. So how many people can also say that? Well, probably only Willamette people. So the opportunity to also major in Spanish and study abroad, and I still use my Spanish today.
That's awesome. I'm really excited because we do have several things in common. So I also went to Willamette, and I also studied a lot of Spanish as well. So yeah, such a great place for that. Really amazing. And as you just alluded to, we have so many facets as Willamette alumni. And so I was wondering, what else besides academics did you participate in at Willamette?
So I was in the Salem Chamber Music Orchestra also. I'm a violist. And so that was another just amazing thing that I got to do, was rehearse and perform on campus and in the area. So music, language, and science.
Nice. Oh, I love it. And so in terms of your professors, we'd love to hear if you had any special mentors that come to mind.
Oh, I did. So Dr. Sharon Rose and Dr. Grant Thorsett are my peeps. They were just the best and so instrumental in my education. I still stay in really close contact with Sharon. We write letters, and I saw her, I think it was summer before last. My family and I took a trip up to Oregon for a summer vacation, and she looks just the same. She's still running. She's still fit. Just got a lot of real incredible mentoring from both her and Dr. Thorsett.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I follow Steve Thorsett, the president of Willamette, his dad, Grant Thorsett. So I follow how Grant is doing on Facebook, and that's great to hear about Sharon too. So yeah, that's wonderful. And so, that leads us to my next question, and that is, how these faculty relationships that you had at Willamette, how they then brought you along and then led you out into the career path that you did.
Yeah, I mean, again, just feel so lucky to have gone to a school like Willamette because you get so much personal attention. I often, tell people when I reflect on my time at Willamette, like, gosh, I had classes with, 15 people, and they were all taught by amazing, engaged professors. And so I think it's that hands-on education just gave me a lot of confidence, I think, and just kind of prepared me with an incredible kind of first principles education that I was able to kind of build on over time because it was relatively broad and there was the kind of applied aspect of the laboratory environment and, getting out into the field. Sharon and Rose would take us out to the coast and we would kayak and collect samples for microbial ecology classes. And, there's just not very many, I think, educational constructs that allow you to get that much in an undergraduate education.
Oh, I love it. And so if you could then take us on a journey after you graduated from Willamette, you probably did a couple things before you became president of Clinical Diagnostics, so giving us an idea of what that looked like for you.
Absolutely. So the path I ended up on was not the one I thought I was going to take, which is probably the same for many people. And I guess the message is that's okay, right? That's okay. I didn't even know that the career I have now existed, frankly. And that's probably changed, 20 odd years, it's been since I was an undergrad there, where I didn't really know what careers in biotech were, kind of what existed and what paths you could take. So I always assumed that I would take the academic route, that I would get a PhD and I would teach or do laboratory research. So I was pursuing graduate programs essentially, so I moved down to San Diego with that intention, and I didn't get in right away after graduating from Willamette. So I thought, well, I guess I need a job, and so I started exploring various opportunities to do lab work, and came across a role in a small biotech company in San Diego. And, that's really what opened my eyes initially to the kinds of work that was available in kind of more industrial side of science. And when I started at my first job, I applied for a lab job, but the CEO saw something else in me and he said, why don't you think about product management? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what are these jobs? What do they mean? And, essentially what the role is being a translator between what the market wants, what a potential customer wants, which is typically a laboratory science professional, and what a company can make. And you're writing those requirements and you're working with research and development to make the product and then commercialize it. Once I started that kind of job, I was just hooked. It was just the coolest thing ever to be part of that decoder ring between the commercial side and the scientific side, and to make something that really adds value to science, but without being a research scientist myself. And so, I got really lucky that this was where I had an entry point. And then, for the last 20 years, I've just been on that path at different companies with different kinds of product categories.
That's awesome. So did you get headhunted from one company to another, or how did you maneuver all of that?
Lots of different ways. So typically I've made changes in my career because I've known people or they've known me. So a lot of networking, and that's a really good tip for everybody, is just, actively manage your relationships and your networking. There's no kind of better way to get an opportunity than somebody kind of endorsing or recommending you. That has typically, been the way. I was with one company for 10 or 11 years, and that's really where I learned a lot and scaled in my role as a company called BD, Becton Dickinson. It was about 13 years there. And After that, I started kind of making my choices around, well, I really want to now work in genomics, or I want to go work in, these certain fields. And so I would kind of cultivate opportunities that allowed me to get different experiences.
Yes, yes. So did you ever connect with Willamette alumni or help Willamette alumni or be any part of that?
Kind of passively through LinkedIn. I've had some connections, but I haven't been as active as I probably could be. So maybe this is a start of a new opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's wonderful. And I love this idea that you're putting out there, that there are jobs that people don't even know exist. And I know a lot of times we have graduates go out there and they're not feeling confident, maybe that I don't know what this job is, but just showing that they can learn. And that sounds like exactly what you did.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, being able to kind of demonstrate how great first principles education that you get at a liberal arts school positions you to be a successful contributor and a leader in many different environments is really, I think, what positioned me for success, and probably positions a lot of people that get this sort of education for success.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I would add as well in the journey of, you never really know what you're going to do, is at Willamette, I avoided any kind of finance course like the plague. I'm like, if I could avoid taking a finance class, I would. And I liked math in the context of science, but it just terrified me for some reason. And so as I was, kind of getting into the more business side of science, I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I better about this. So I did go back to graduate school at night. I got a master's of business administration and finance. And that was another kind of tool in the toolbox that I really ended up needing, but never knew I needed, and probably wouldn't have known I needed unless I had that experience, that kind of on-the-job experience to know, what else I needed to learn. So another kind of tip is, don't think you got it all wired. Just get in there, find something you love, and it might take you in weird and wonderful places.
Right. I'm so glad you brought up the MBA, because I was going to ask you about that. At what point did you get your MBA? So thank you for knowing what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to know more about Bio-Rad. So first, just let me tell you, I cannot tell you how many hours I stood in front of a Bio-Rad FTIR infrared spectrometer in graduate school. I did a lot of IR spectroscopy. So as soon as I heard you worked for Bio-Rad, I was like, Bio-Rad, I love Bio-Rad.
Yay!
But I really only knew of them for just that one thing, the instrumentation. And so if you could give our viewers an idea, I know there's a huge scope of this enormous international company, and Bio-Rad does so many things. So I know it's hard to encapsulate it, but the elevator speech on Bio-Rad Laboratories.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great company. We're located just north of Oakland, California, in a little town called Hercules. The company was founded around 60 years ago by a couple called Alice and David Schwartz, and they were UC Berkeley graduates. And it's one of those fun Bay Area stories where they kind of developed their first product in a yurt, and then that became 60 years on, a scaled international corporation, but the Schwartz family is still very involved in the company, and it's a really neat legacy. So let's see, the company is about $2.5 billion. So not small, not gigantic, but a nice size scale. It is split into two groups: the Clinical Diagnostics Group, which I run, it's about $1.5 billion, and the Life Sciences Group, which is about $1 billion. And essentially, we make products for laboratories to use, both in research settings and in clinical settings. So in a research setting, it would be everything from the readers to look at protein gels, gel electrophoresis. It would be flow cytometry instruments to do cellular analysis. It would be thermal cyclers, for basic molecular research. And then on the clinical side, we develop a lot of the products that would be used in a routine laboratory setting. For instance, if you were to get a blood draw and it gets sent to LabCorp, Quest, some names people have probably heard, they would have our equipment to kind of run analyses on those samples. Everything from diabetes testing to blood testing for both transplant monitoring and blood supply monitoring, infectious disease products, and all sorts of other things that would be used in that lab setting.
That's amazing. Yeah, and so now we're in the midst of this global pandemic, and so I'm wondering about what is the role Bio-Rad has taken on really recently for this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad you asked. I mean, these are pretty amazing times in that we're really having to develop testing methodologies in real time as we understand more about the spread of the disease as well as the prevalence in the population. So there's a couple of different ways that Bio-Rad is involved today, and I have to tell everybody that I probably spend 12 hours of Zoom meetings a day talking about COVID-19 and talking about the virus that's associated with COVID-19. I'll try to encapsulate that briefly. So, the first and kind of most important thing is if somebody is symptomatic, we try to diagnose whether or not they're infected with the virus, and that's done with a molecular test. So a swab up the nose or in the mouth to try to capture a viral particle. And then the tests that are being used to detect the virus are molecular tests. So you kind of amplify the viral genome and you detect it. So we've developed products for they're PCR-based, polymerase chain reaction-based to detect the virus. So that's one way in which we're participating. And then the second aspect, and this is very much in the news right now, is trying to understand who may have been infected, whether or not you were diagnosed. A lot of the studies coming out, particularly from China, because they saw the first wave of infection, is that there's a pretty high asymptomatic rate. So people who are infected and they don't show symptoms. But what we can do is look in their blood to see if they've developed antibodies to the virus. So that's known as a serology test. We don't know yet whether those antibodies confer long-term immunity, but we're understanding more about it. And there's a pretty big push from a lot of governments and central testing agencies, such as the CDC, to encourage widespread population screening so we can understand that prevalence rate of exposure and try to understand that immunity profile a little bit better, and potentially use that to help inform how we might selectively open up certain parts of the economy. So we've developed a product for detecting the antibodies from blood as well, and we've just submitted that to the FDA over the weekend. So that was really exciting, and we've published all of our clinical data, and the product is shipping to laboratories to start testing today.
Wow, that is exciting. And then, well, and to give our viewers some context, when you say today is April 20th, and so over the weekend it was just the 18th, 19th. So wow, that's really exciting. So you look like you're optimistic. Am I sensing that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm optimistic in that serology testing is certainly an important tool in the toolkit. And, I think that there's a growing appreciation from all of the public health departments that we need to support widespread screening first probably with more at-risk folks, as well as people who are working on the front line in our medical communities and in other parts of the economy that are considered essential workers. So the real question is just how quickly we can scale broad-based testing and make sure that we've got the right infrastructure to be able to collect all the data, and then also use serology also in the context of vaccine development, which is being fast-tracked right now as well.
Mm-hmm. So with all this work that's being fast-tracked, how is Bio-Rad responding to that in terms of employees? I'm wondering, are people working overtime, or are you hiring a lot of people, or how are you making this headway so quickly?
Oh, it's an excellent question. And you can imagine it's really tough given all the shelter-in-place orders. So
Yes.
everybody that's working in, we are considered an essential business because of the work that we do. And so everybody working in production and manufacturing is still working, but we're doing very careful, socially distanced shift work, and everybody is in, personal protective equipment. But we're having to run, again, extra shifts and also bring in a significant temporary workforce just to be able to scale. The demand has shifted so quickly. So a lot of products we have no demand for because research institutions are closed and certain kinds of work isn't happening. And then, all of the products related to supporting the SARS-CoV-2 testing is just gone through the roof. But it's pretty amazing how adaptable humans are, and just the fact that we're able to do so much work like this that we never thought we would be able to do. So we get on the phone and we review the clinical data, and we review everything that needs to get done to get a product developed. And I'm actually it's pretty amazing. The SARS, the ELISA kit that we just released, the one for serology, we, developed essentially in, 72 days. And it's an incredibly well-performing product.
Wow, that is amazing. I love
All
it.
hands on deck.
Yeah, no kidding. So is Bio-Rad hiring right now? Just wondering.
Yeah, we certainly are. I mean, right now, particularly for laboratory jobs, but as soon as, we settle down a bit and get an understanding of what the rest of the year is going to look like, we'll ramp back up hiring and other, R&D and marketing and product management jobs. But
yeah, I want to make sure to ask that just in case there are any recent graduates who are looking for jobs. So.
Absolutely.
So I also noticed that Bio-Rad has an educational branch, and now given that all the schools have closed, I'm just wondering if you've noticed, or if you even know, if people are really jumping on the educational kits that you have and those resources.
Gosh, I sure hope so. I don't have the recent use data, but it is a really great resource. Anybody can check it out online. But yeah, Bio-Rad has always been really, really committed to engaging in kind of early stage education, kind of through to continuing education, both from providing access to product as well as educational content. It's a really neat thing that the company does. That's
awesome. Well, it just really seems like you have a job that you love. I mean, that is just coming across loud and clear, and you're very successful at it. And it also, there's a lot of meaning to what you're doing. We just saw everything you said about the studies that are being done with the coronavirus that your company is doing. So I'm just wondering if we can wrap up with, if you had to have advice for Bearcats of how if you have anything that they could hold on to in this trajectory of finding meaningful work and being successful at it.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh. Couple of things. I mean, first, don't limit yourself, because you never know, what life is going to offer you and the things you'll have to take advantage of. And I think that, the liberal arts education that allows you to get a broad-based exposure to lots of different things is a great place to start that journey of not limiting yourself. And then, once you start on your career, try new things. I mean, that's another, I haven't talked about it much today, but even within the biotech companies that I've worked for, I've had a lot of different roles, many, many different roles. And when I mentor folks at companies that I've worked with, I always say, always lead from a place of yes. The worst case scenario is that you're going to learn something. You're going to learn that you don't like something, or you're going to learn, wow, that was a project that really opened my eyes to different experiences. So, always lead from a place of yes if you can, because it just puts more tools in your toolbox to continue to grow your career and to make good choices, and just find the best way to kind of integrate your whole life. There's really no such thing as work-life balance, but there is work-life integration. So, reflect along the way of kind of what's important to you, and kind of striking the right balance that works for you personally. Those are kind of my tips.
Those are very wise words. Very wise words. Thank you, Dara. And so this was Dara Wright, Willamette University graduate 1997 in biology, who is now a leader in Bio-Rad Laboratories. And it was really lovely to talk to you today, Dara. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. It was such a pleasure. Thanks for thinking of me. Go Bearcats. And hope that my paths will cross with some of you.
Yes, for sure. And I also wanted to say thank you to our viewers. If you enjoyed this, then please stay tuned. We have additional content that comes out every week. And also, if you have ideas for people that we could interview, then do not hesitate to send us an email at alumni@willamette.edu. So thank you for watching. I'm Karen McFarlane Holman, and over and out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.